Yeah, I mean, it's a lot going on. It's yeah, um, yeah, a lot going on. So I think, yeah. Anything you want?
Elon, we want to get sense of your thought process for growth rates and how do you overall contextualize it or conceptualize it from Tesla standpoint for unit growth. You probably have your pulse on the entire global macroeconomic aspects as well as demand for your product, right? So
Yeah.
one aspect was that what we were discussing, and Elon, the second aspect was on Twitter side. It seems like you have kind of gotten to a good grip of the situation. What's your next step? So those are things which we were bouncing around our ideas on. So it would be great if you could give a couple of thoughts of your own.
Sure. Well, on the Twitter front, I need to sort of deep dive on Twitter just to make sure the company didn't go bankrupt next year. So that was really, just required, I don't know, about a month of intense work. As we're still doing Tesla work during that time as well, by the way. And I think it's really, Tesla has not skipped a beat on execution. The Tesla team is doing an incredible job across the board in execution. So it's really, can't say enough good things about the Tesla team and the progress that's being made in terms of fundamentals. With respect to, with respect to sort of global demand, I just do want to really emphasize, and I'm not trying to say that this is the only reason, but it is certainly the primary reason. Is that when interest rates increase, the cost of a car increases along with it. So the radical interest rate changes that have occurred have increased the prices of all cars, actually new and used. You can see like what a bath Carvana and CarMax are taking. This will be true of anything bought with debt. So there's that's on the demand side. Is the interest rate changes by the Fed, and then everyone's basically forced to follow the Fed. So you've got Europe raising interest rates, even Japan raising interest rates. Now, and in my view, I've said a bunch of this already on Twitter. In my view, we are already in deflation. So the Fed is just dealing with old data. So then if I'm correct that we're already in deflation, the real rate of return of T-bills is insanely high. It's arguably above the long-term rate of the S&P 500. It's arguably above 6% real rate of return.
With you, right? Like from a macroeconomic perspective, that's why growth in tech stocks compress when interest rates are going up. But taking that out of the equation, and I think most of us reasonable investors up here, understand that. And I found it funny when you made that comment to Ross the other day as well. But, taking that out of the equation, do you really feel, we've talked about the 50% growth rate, and I find that to be really an arbitrary number, whether it's 40 or 45.
Yeah.
Do you really think Tesla is going to sustain that growth rate in the next couple of years still?
Well, so I'm just laying out what I see as just this is my best guess at the future. It's not like I have like some incredible crystal ball that is an exact predictor of anything. So with all appropriate caveats, but the reality is, if we are in a recession, I think we are in a recession, and I think 2023 is going to be quite a serious recession. And it's going to be, in my opinion, comparable to 2009. I don't know if it's going to be a little worse or a little better, but I think it's in my view likely to be comparable. And that means demand for any kind of optional discretionary item, especially if it's a big ticket item, will be lower. And then with the Fed increasing rates, which is really, this is quite unusual. This is like when you're heading to a recession, you should be reducing the Fed rate, not increasing it. So that amplifies the difficulty. So now you have sort of structural demand, which is obviously going to be lower in a recession, and you amplified the effective cost of a car because they're almost all bought with debt. So now you get a double whammy, is what I'm saying. So then the obvious choice in that scenario is, do you want to grow unit volume, in which case you'll have to adjust prices downward, or do you want to grow at a lower rate or go steady? It's sort of a choice there. My inclination would be to still grow. My bias would be to say, like, okay, let's grow as fast as we can without putting the company at risk, which would mean, in that scenario, profits would be low to negative during a recession, provided the cash position is okay. I think that's still the right move long term, because there's also something that Tesla possesses that other car companies do not, which is extremely fundamental. That is that the cars are upgradable to autonomy, and arguably an autonomous car is worth many times what a non-autonomous car is. So even if your margins are extremely low in selling the car, the subsequent upgrade to it being autonomous is worth a lot. So, and that's something that no other car company can do. Only Tesla can do that. So I think that if you say well, I stand by my prediction that long term, that Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world. I'm actually fairly confident that will be what happens. What I cannot predict, because there are many things outside of my control, is what will be the valuation along the way there. So that is subject to the stock, subject to a lot of emotional elements on the stock market, subject to macroeconomic conditions. But if say long term, I would say Tesla's probably, in my best guess, most valuable company in the world in less than 5 years.
Hey, Elon, in terms of existing manufacturers.
Actually, wait, three aces.
Sorry.
I apologize. I don't know how much time we're going to have, and I want to make sure Omar has a chance to get a question in here. I know a lot of people in here want to hear any thoughts or anything like that. Omar, I apologize for cutting you off, but do you have anything?
Well, yeah, I think I definitely agree with Elon. I've been using the FSD beta. It's been driving me all around LA with no takeovers. But, just to give voice to a lot of people, Elon, you've blamed sort of the macro environment. I think a lot of people don't understand the economy. But what would you say to people who say that, Elon bought Twitter and he had to sell his shares and he hasn't been doing anything at Tesla. He hasn't been doing his job. And he's turning people off with his political tweets. They're all canceling their Tesla orders. And this is all his fault, and he won't acknowledge it. He's just blaming it on macro.
Well, the thing is that, if you look at sort of automotive demand almost anywhere in the world, it's problematic almost anywhere in the world, and not everywhere cares about my political comments. So that I think this is of really of minor impact. Really, this is not. I really just don't think this is a significant factor.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So
I mean, I
don't think it's a significant factor. But the thing I just, the thing that I think most people are just not realizing is just how I sound like a broken record on this, but how big of an impact a Fed rate level is of this on the order of 5% is if we are in a deflationary environment, which I think we are in.
In autos, we are in a deflationary environment. And I agree with you.
Objectively, we are.
And you know, in 2021, we sold,
Your mic cut out there, I think.
Yeah, he cut out.
Oh,
as well.
Elon, one comment I wanted to ask you on Twitter, Elon specifically. The other day you tweeted about, if you were to step down as CEO, you'd stay on as head of software and servers. And from my perspective, I've been a Tesla investor since 2015, Elon, and my view of you at Tesla is that a lot of your excellence comes from your vision and your ability to delegate talent. So I guess my question to you would be, and I'm not saying I'm in the school of thought of some people that believe that you're not working on Tesla and SpaceX. I believe that you are, and I think that people just have a misrepresentation by reading your feed that you're not. But that being said, why is it that you feel, I guess, at this juncture, that you can't delegate, a handful of talent that you trust, who share your vision, to run the Twitter side while you focus on some of the bigger things elsewhere? I'm just curious to hear your opinion on that.
I mean, as I said at the beginning of the call, I had to have a sort of a short-term, month or so of just getting the insane Twitter costs under control. Twitter would just go flat bankrupt. So now that is basically almost entirely done. And then I've got to make sure that the engine of engineering at Twitter is working. Otherwise, Twitter cannot develop new features. But in the grand scheme of things, the amount of actual cognitive load that Twitter represents is low. I mean, it is a much simpler problem than Tesla or SpaceX, obviously, by a country mile. So I would say it was like high cognitive load for about a month. At this point, it is a moderate cognitive load. A month from now, it'll be I think low. So and if I look back and say okay, what are actions that could have been taken? What was there something that I failed to do at Tesla that could have been done and would have improved our execution? I literally cannot think of a single thing.
Elon, can you talk about?
Yeah, this is really great to hear you say. I think a lot of investors have sort of wanted to hear you say that and just reaffirm that you're committed to Tesla. I think those of us who know you know that your commitment to Tesla hasn't changed, but the perception people see on the internet can be very skewed sometimes.
Elon, can you talk about the issues in China and outlook on SAR? I know, Tesla's been able to sell and increase penetration and market share in EVs for many years, but now that it's at a larger scale, global auto SAR was at 66.7 million units in 2021. US SAR is at 14.1 million. Outlooks for next year in the US and overseas are on the decline, and prices are also declining. Like you said, I agree, we're in an auto deflationary environment when it comes to prices.
Yes, objectively so. Yeah.
Can Tesla potentially, when it comes to unit sales, can Tesla continue to increase unit sales in this type of environment, or will it have to provide more incentives, or how are you planning to this macroeconomic environment is pretty challenging. How do you plan to address some of these these issues that are outside of your control?
I'm just hoping, factually, if you since the vast majority of cars are bought on credit, the interest rates are a high interest rate, high real interest rate is literally just like increasing the price of the car. So in order to keep demand constant, you would have to therefore decrease the price of the car. It's the only that's if you want to keep demand constant, and if you want to increase demand, you have to decrease the price of the car further. This is like Econ 101 stuff. So that's the situation we have. It's kind of blown my mind that the Fed has raised rates so high. They're just dealing with old information, and it's like basically like the economy right now is like a car, driving around on a cliffside road, and the Fed is driving it by looking out the rear view mirror. In fact, it's not even looking at the rearview mirror. It's looking at a video taken out of the rearview mirror that's like 3 months old. So obviously, this is not a good way to drive a car on a windy cliff road. So they're just very old school and traditional, and I think we're in for a hard landing. That's based on it's like I said, you have to think like like for argument's sake, if you have a risk-free rate like that is higher than the return on the S&P, which obviously has fluctuations, why would anyone have stock?
I mean, we're buying bonds. We're buying preferreds. We're, at 11, 12% yields. You can buy the T-Flow. Everyone on here, there's ETFs. They're floating rate instruments. You can easily earn, high single digits, double-digit return in very low-risk securities today. So I 100% agree with you. Why would you buy residual interest equity securities in risky companies? I 100% agree with your thought process. In an environment like this, now we don't expect rates to stay here forever, but it's a good question
Right.
everyone should ask themselves.
Yeah, I mean the exactly, and so like probably what's going to happen, it sounds like based on the Fed signaling, is they'll increase rates by another 50 basis points next month, and then my guess is they'll again, it's not like I have a hotline to Jerome Powell. If somebody knows Jerome Powell, please tell him to stop raising interest rates. This was insane.
I feel like you could get him on the phone if you really wanted to.
I think so.
At this point.
Is he allowed to talk to me?
Sure.
Well, he doesn't have a Twitter account. I'm pretty sure he's allowed to talk to you.
Talk to business leaders, totally.
Let's get this set up. Let's do it on Twitter Spaces. That would be a conversation.
That'd be sick.
Elon versus the Fed on Twitter.
Twitter's valuation would pop on that too, right? You'd get a whole new batch of listeners.
Well, it's the whole market, But like I said, the thing to appreciate about interest rate increases is the double whammy effect of, if you're looking at a stock price, is higher interest rates will reduce the profitability of any company selling something that is dependent on the price of debt, because cars are bought with leases and loans. So people look at their monthly payment, and so you have basically a demand/profitability issue with higher interest rates, and then which then reduces profitability, obviously, and then in general the valuation of all equities drops with the increase in the real interest rate. That's the double whammy effect that I'm talking about. Now this will not last forever. They'll I don't know. Hopefully they'll see okay, they've gone too far, and then start lowering the rate, and then it's a question of, well, at what rate do they lower the rate? How long does it take them to get the rate back to something sensible?
Elon, on that point you made earlier about the raising the higher rates, obviously making cars effectively more expensive. I agree with that. Obviously, it's a pretty basic notion, but I'm just curious, and we've talked about this before, and I know Gary has mentioned this before. What's your view on Tesla's path to the $30,000 vehicle or the next vehicle? I know you said that you guys had kind of tabled that last time you spoke about it. Have you guys brought that back up? Is it something you're considering again now, especially in this environment? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not the forum to make product announcements, but we're obviously want to make more affordable cars. So, and the Tesla product pipeline is awesome. I think Tesla's got the most exciting product roadmap of any company on earth by far. So that's and the proof will be in the pudding. So,
hey, Elon, can I ask? I'm just connecting some of the previous points together. I'm a 10-year owner of Tesla and 10-year investor as well. Just connecting some of the previous points together. When I looked at the 08-09 inflation recession, in 07 in U.S. auto sales were at 16.5 million cars. 08 it went down to 13.1, and then 09 it went down to 10.4. So if you go from 07 to 09, there was like a 36% drawdown in U.S. I'm just looking at U.S. auto sales. And then you look at what Tesla is projected to do this year in the US in terms of EV as a percent of auto. It's going to grow 50% this year, go from 4.7% penetration of total auto to 7%, which is like a 50% jump in the US. And it's going to do about a 100% jump in China year over year. So these are unbelievable growth numbers of EV as a percent of auto. And the thing I don't think we've layered in is that Tesla has increased prices, even with this inventory reduction in the last couple of days. Like the Model Y, I think is still $19,000 higher than it was in the early part of Q4 2021. So long story short, if you overlay Tesla's EV adoption growth and you overlay like what happened in the last recession, which was pretty gnarly, it feels like in the fact that prices have gone up so much and commodities have come down so much over the last, I won't say so much, but commodities are starting to come down. How do you feel Tesla's positioned with all those factors in mind?
I think Tesla's positioned better than any other car company by far. And like I said, the fact that the vehicle is capable of autonomy with a software update is gigantic. It's a gigantic thing. No one else has that. So, and we also are starting from a position where our gross margins are higher than I think anyone else, which gives us more room to lower them and maintain or increase demand. So now, does that mean that like profits are a pretty picture in like a 2009 style recession? Of course not. That's just not physically possible. And there's no human on earth or me or anyone else who could change that.
Hey, Elon, I'm an emerging guy in Africa.
Yeah, I want to jump in here quickly. I appreciate it. Elon, I want to throw you out there a quick question, and then I'll throw it over to Gav, and then I want to hear Gary if he has any thoughts. But Elon, we're on Twitter Spaces right now. Is Twitter Spaces something that's kind of core to you and Twitter and the long term of it? Is it important to you?
Twitter Spaces seems to be, Twitter Spaces, I think is a great forum for the public in general, and I think it's quite useful to get the message out. Obviously, it's basically being on Twitter Space and then being able to sort of see the Twitter comments, the written comments at the same time, I think is Twitter at its best.
Yeah, I would definitely echo.
All right, can I stir up some drama here? Because we've got Ross Gerber in the room, and Ross has been saying Elon's doing a shitty job, he's not there, and he wants to run for the board of directors. Ross, would you like to confront Elon right now while we're in this space?
Yeah,
for the audience's entertainment?
That's not what I've been saying at all. I'm probably one of the biggest fans of Elon of anybody here, and I'm super grateful for the effort and success that he's put into making Tesla successful and SpaceX. And all I want to know is what's going on. And that's all I've asked from the Tesla board too, is like, I just want to back at Tesla. I just miss you, Elon. Like I love Twitter and I love what you're doing with Twitter and I support it 100%. And I've invested in it and I would invest more. But I just I really think there's a huge community of people who just want to know, like, what's the next move? Like, how long is this going to be? Like, how much more stock are you going to sell? These are basic questions that I think are fair to ask.
Yeah, I'm not selling any stock for, I don't know, I'd call it a minimum 18 to 24 months. So you can count on me like no stock sales till probably, I don't know, 2025 or something. I basically, it was like, I needed to sort of sell some stock just to make sure like there's like powder dry that, to account for a worst case scenario.
Totally.
Yeah.
I
and
get
so
all
that's
that.
really it. Yeah.
But I want to buy the stock.
But I'm not selling any
And it's like I just don't want to get whacked the next day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. So I still have my commitment that I won't sell stock until, I don't know, probably 2 years from now. Definitely not next year under any circumstances, and probably not the year thereafter. So I just really want to make sure that I'm somewhat paranoid, having gone through 2 really intense recessions.
I totally understand that.
That's great news. Thanks for making that statement.
So
that means a lot.
Can you just answer? Can you answer my other question though? Like, as far as what you're thinking as a timeline, as far as like when you're going to be back in Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I was back in Austin just last week, but Tesla's still primarily in the Bay Area, and I'm in the Bay Area.
Right.
I hadn't like literally, there's not a single important like Tesla meeting that I've missed this entire time. So it's not like I'm totally missing in action. That's just not the case.
I agree, but maybe it's the optics a little bit. That's kind of where I'm coming from. It's like it's like an optics thing, and like a lot of things you're doing on Twitter, I'm like super like it needed to be done. Like, you know how I feel about the people who were running Twitter before, and I think you're doing a great job with the product, not to mention too, although it's not an easy task by any means. But I just think the perception is like, oh, he's doing this now and he's not doing that. And maybe the media is doing that, but it's just something you should be aware of. And that perception is a reality to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is obviously like mega catnip. If you cross catnip with crack, that's what Twitter is. A catnip crack. So like any tiny little thing of Twitter is like front page news. Right. It's like we have like some mid-level person left Twitter, front page news. Right. Like, what the? That was ridiculous. So it's just going to get like outsized attention. But it's not like there's literally. If I think like, is there anything that I could have done in the past like few months that would have helped with Tesla's execution? I literally can't think of anything. Right. So, and there was not a single important meeting that I missed. It's we're making great progress on future product development, and it's really just like I think there's going to be some macro drama that's higher than people currently think, or higher than most people think, and it's hard to predict exactly. Economic prognostication is fraught with difficulty, but if we do have another 2000